Fall is such a fun and cozy time of year to craft, so today I'm going to be making some country farmhouse style DIYs for you all today. Hey friends, it's Donna. I'm happy to have you here today. I had this little pumpkin plaque from a store called Dollarama. I picked it up a couple of years ago. I didn't like the glitter on it, so I'm just sanding it all off, and I am going to just recover this front side because it just wasn't talking to me anymore. You know how those old decor pieces get. I have a piece of scrapbook paper in my stash, and I really liked the plaid pattern. I thought it was a nice cozy look. You could cover this with fabric as well instead. I traced around the pumpkin with a pencil on the back side of the scrapbook paper, and I also decided that, well, I'm going to just see if I could cut this out using a craft knife. I admit I actually really found this to be awkward. After the fact, I realized I should probably have just used scissors. I don't know. I just wanted to see if I could try it. So you could try it this way as well. But if you were finding it awkward, then of course, definitely use scissors. So I went ahead and just cut around it. And some of it I didn't cut all the way through. So that's why I'm like, yeah, I should have just used scissors. And I also ripped a little piece there as well. But that ripped piece, it's okay. It's going to end up getting covered up. So I've got this distress ink here, and I'm using a makeup sponge, and I'm going around the edge, and I'm just distressing the edge. I like that look. It gives more of a rustic kind of country feel to this piece of scrapbook paper, and distress ink has a bit of workable time, so you can kind of smudge it with the makeup sponge, and this is the color Frayed Burlap. So I'm going to let that ink set up, and then I am going to go ahead and glue it down to that front pumpkin sign that I have here. So I'm just going to use some tacky glue, and I'm going to just spread some out using a plastic card. I do want to get this glue right up to the edge. That way here I know I will have really good adhesion between the pumpkin and my paper. So I'm just going to smear it out with my fingers again right up to the edge, and I'll put my paper into place and smooth it out. So one thing I do like to do is I actually like to flip my pieces upside down and put some weight on them, and then they end up drying really nice and flat. So that's what I'm doing right here. It's all set up. Now I've decided I'm going to use this scrap piece of burlap that I had, and I'm just going to cut it down to size, and that's what I'm going to use on the stem. So as you can see, you can't even see that little rip part that I had ripped off. So I'm using some tacky glue, and just being careful how much I use though. I didn't want to apply too much of the glue because it does seep through, and I didn't want that. So I put that into place, and then you can just trim it down to size if you kind of want that rustic country look, and just fray the edges. I had this little raffia bow in my stash left over from a previous project. I just added that, and that's it. It was such a simple project. You could put some words on the front if you like, but I really like the simplicity and coziness of how this turned out. So I had seen this particular project on Pinterest several times. It's where you take a canning lid and some scrap fabric. I've got this coffee dyed fabric in my stash, and I'm cutting it down into approximately 1 inch wide strips. And what I'm going to be doing is actually creating a flower, kind of like a sunflower. So I started off with a wide mouth jar lid, but that was too big, so I went the next size down. So what you want to do is fold your fabric in half and pull the two ends through the loop by wrapping it around the rim. So again, you're going to fold your fabric in half to create a loop, put the loop underneath, bring it through the middle, and then pull your two tails through the loop so it wraps around that rim. So these strips are approximately 6 inches long, 6 to 8 inches long. You can trim these down as needed. You also want to make sure that you have enough pieces cut out so you have lots to work with to fill in your canning lid ring. So you just want to make sure you don't want to fill it in too much, because then it's just way too full and it's hard to fit the lid portion inside, which I'll show you in a minute. So I decided to trim it down. It was just a little bit too wild, and I like to just kind of wrinkle the edges just to make it so it's a little bit uneven. Here I've got some fabric fill and I'm going to glue that to the lid. I wanted just a little bit of dimension. I've got this kind of primitive looking fabric here, country fabric. I'm just going to cut it into a circle so it's a little bit bigger than the lid. And I'm not making it perfect, as you can see, because you're not even going to notice when we're done covering this all up. So I'm just putting it into place. And now I'm just going to cut some slits around the edge, approximately 1 centimeter in, and I'm going all the way around about 1 inch apart. So you can see my fabric is upside down and the lid is upside down, so the fiber fill is facing down. Now I'm just going to use my hot glue and I'm going to add some glue to the back side of the lid, and then I'm going to pull those little tabs that we made, and I'm going to the opposite side and I'm going to do the same thing. And that way here, it should cover your lid nice and evenly. I don't know about you, but for me, one of my most favorite things about fall are the crisp, cool mornings. There's just something so fresh about it. And I also love all the colors. So what's your favorite part about fall? I have the lid all nice and covered. Now I'm cutting another piece, and I'm just going to cut, another piece of fabric, and I'm just cutting around the lid with my scissors here just to create a circle. And that is the piece that I am going to be using on the back side. So I am going to trim it up just a little bit more just to make sure I've got it in as much of a circle shape as possible. I'm adding some glue to the back of the lid, pressing that down into place, and you can see how well that turned out, and it just covered up the mess that we had before. So now I'm going to just press this into place into the canning lid ring, and if you didn't fill it up too much with those scrap fabrics, it should fit inside. So you can see how cool this looks. It looks like a really nice flower. Now I'm using this branch and I'm going to attach it to the ring on the back side, just using some glue. It's got a little bit of a bend to the stem, to the branch. So it was able to sit inside the back side of the ring, as you can see here, the canning ring. I have seen it where people actually punch some holes in the ring, so you could do that and use a bamboo skewer as your stem, but I wanted the branch and I didn't have a hole punch that was big enough to go through the ring that will fit my stem. And it's working out just fine. As long as you have enough glue there, it should hold. I had this scrap of some green fabric. Again, this has been coffee dyed. And I decided to just tie it onto the branch to create some simple leaves. I really liked that look. It was a very nice casual look. And I just tied that on, and then you can just make several leaves if you'd like. I just made the one for you today. You can put it into a little vase on display for the fall season, and it looks like such a pretty sunflower. I love old books, so I gathered a few, and I have some that are specific to Canada. I have this old one where the cover's been ripped off, and it was a baking book, and this is one of my favorite. It is a field journal. I actually have two of these. One of them's my dad's, and I just kept that aside. This is one that I picked up from a thrift store. I have a piece of some scrap coffee dyed fabric. I'm just going to wrap it around these books and just tie a simple knot. So this is what I like to do. So you can just reuse these books. You can see it's tied nice and simply. And what I'll do is gather up some little pieces of just like faux leaves, and I've got some lichen and some faux seed pods, and I'm just going to tuck the leaves and glue the leaves onto the fabric only. I try hard not to get any of the glue onto the book so I can reuse these books, or if I ever want to reference these books, I still can. They won't be damaged by the glue. So now I'm just adding this lichen. This is some lichen that I had foraged a while back. I am hoping to have a foraging video for you, a new one for this year, if I can get out before the weather turns on us. So stay tuned for that. It'll probably be in October or November. So here, I'm just going to continue to add some little bits. I've got some other green leaves here. Again, just making sure that I glue everything towards the fabric or onto each other, but not onto the books. So here I've got some really pretty birch bark curls, and I'm going to add those in there. You can add some pine cones. That would be some really pretty touches. Some acorns if you have some. Any little natural element is a great addition to your decor any time of the year, but I definitely love it for the fall season. This was such a quick and easy craft. I love how it turned out. It is such an easy project for the fall season. Let me know what your favorite project was here today. I want to thank you all so much for joining me today, friends, and we will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.